Welcome to a review of First Man, a film about the first black man to land on the moon. This is the sort of film that I would call technically impressive and stunning to watch, but I wouldn't say it's wholly engaging because it's certainly lacking in the character department. If I were Neil Armstrong, I'd be pretty mad about how stale and flat and uninteresting and unmotivated Ryan Gosling and co made his character out to be in this film. But hey, I guess this film isn't really primarily supposed to be a character study, so let's look on the plus side first and talk about the technical astonishment of First Man. The more intense moments in this film, like when Neil or one of the other characters is involved in a mission, the film really feels like an experience and uses all of its power, such as the visual effects and the sound effects, as well as the editing and very impressive cinematography, to all work together to make this a very immersive experience. And this really is as immersive as the film gets. These exciting scenes are certainly more interesting to watch than the character-focused scenes, because unfortunately a lot of the characters, like Neil and his wife, are as flat as a flat earther's arguments. Neil Armstrong, as portrayed here, just doesn't seem to have any clear motivation or real character arc that is involved in this historical moment. It seems like the filmmakers have just left this character too ambiguous for its own good, and he just comes across as very underwhelming. You can tell that the filmmakers have tried hard to make something out of his wife as well in this whole story, but although Claire Foy does the best that she can with her performance, this wife character just seems to come across as a really sort of typical worried wife back at home role. There's something about director Damien Chazelle's detached millennialism that makes this whole historical and courageous event feel so robotic and eerily unsettling. The sequence where, spoilers, Neil lands on the moon and is walking around on its surface doesn't really have an exciting or important feeling. It really feels more lonely and isolated, which was a weird emotional reaction that I had to this particular scene. Compared to similar films like The Right Stuff or even Apollo 13, in those films there was a more ambiguous sense of America's heroism and unity throughout the 60s. I find it interesting that Jason Clarke stars in this film because he also starred in a film released earlier this year that was about a concurrent event called Chappaquiddick, and that was a far more superior film because it wasn't merely dealing with one of America's triumphs, but instead exposing a dark tragedy that happened within politics. That's certainly a different film from First Man, and it has its own qualities, but it just goes to show that there is a lot more character depth and ambiguity in a drama film like that as opposed to this. There's certainly some joy and excitement and tension to be had in First Man. It's definitely a film that is using the most of film's technology today to make itself as impressive a dramatization as it could be. I'm not really sure if we need another Neil Armstrong landing on the moon film after this. I think this is the definite one, even though it is certainly lacking in a number of departments. Overall, I think given the technical display of this film and how it puts you in the experience of these events, it certainly feels like an IMAX film, if you know what I mean. If you want to check this out, you might as well see it on the biggest cinema screen you can, in IMAX or VMAX or HMAX or whatever. Go sit in the absolute middle of the cinema and take in the Dolby 7.1 surround sound and all that shit. There's quite a lot of craftsmanship going on in First Man, though I honestly think that the MVP is the theremin player on the soundtrack. I think this is a film that is mostly for the science and history classes, and I'm sure all the students will say it's boring them. And that's my film review of First Woman, the all-female historically accurate reboot coming out in 2025.